Happy Monday, y'all. Whew. I know I'm exhausted, but anyways, so I want to do just a video today because I came home from work today and I have been trying to stay on top of practicing spiritual, exercises or whatever, just because I would need to keep my energy heightened. I need to stay focused on this constantly or it kind of goes downhill. Anyways, so I was channeling, what we call channeling, and that is just kind of sitting and like I would for when I get ready to do a reading for someone. I kind of sit, I kind of breathe, I talk and ask like my guides, my loved ones, my ancestors, my angels, God, whoever wants to help me connect from this world to the next, give me information. And today when I did that, I wrote everything down as it came to me. And a lot of times when you channel, right, it flows. You don't even have time to think of what you're writing until after you're done and you go back and you read it and you're like, holy crap, that's crazy. Like, I didn't even know that's what I was writing. So that's kind of what I did today. And I asked them today before I started channeling, like, listen, I need to know what I need to let people, what I should be telling people, what I should be helping people with, in a sense. And the first thing that came to me was they said, you need to go back to the beginning. And I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean by the beginning? And they're like, when you were conceived. Not just me, but all of you. So they were, and I'm like, okay, what do I need to talk about? Because I don't know much about that. My babies are done grown and old, older. And so when I was writing the stuff that they asked me or was giving me, and I'm just flowing straight 10 minutes of writing, not even know what's on my page till I get done reading it. But when they're talking to me, they were stating that I needed to go back to the beginning for everyone. And now this ain't about things going on in the world right now. This is about self. I'm talking about yourself, myself, Jim Bob's self, and Julie Doe's self, okay? I'm talking about everybody's self. What they're telling me is, Charity, take them to the beginning. They need to know their God-given instincts, where it started. I'm like, all right, okay. So first off, you're a soul. The soul picks their parents or their contract, so to speak, their soul contract, their purpose. They pick what kind of life they're going to live, okay? In a sense. It's a learning lesson, I know, and this sounds all jabberish to some of you, but just pay attention. Okay, so the first thing they said was about when you're conceived, and after about 6 to 8 weeks, you're a little peanut in your mommy's tummy, right? Okay, well, during that time, there's also amniotic fluid around you. This is when you're learning to breathe, okay? Yeah, the umbilical cord gives you oxygen and helps you grow from, what your mom intakes. But the other part that a lot of people don't realize is that you are literally swallowing amniotic fluid. You're kind of like learning to breathe in there in a sense. Not so much that you're sucking it down into your lungs, but you're swallowing it and kind of sucking it into your lungs because that's what helps your lungs develop, okay? So the first thing they wanted me to tell you is to breathe. When you are doing any kind of spiritual work or anything like that, the first thing you do is breathe. So they're trying to remind us to get back to our natural God-given instincts. One of the first things we do when we're a little peanut is we're swallowing amniotic fluid, learning to breathe. And that stuff helps to develop our lungs. And then the first thing we do when we come out of the womb, we breathe oxygen or air. So they're telling me to remind you guys that breath is important when you do any kind of spiritual work, or even when you're praying. Breath is important. It's very important, just like it's very important when you're that little peanut or when you first come out into this world. Okay, it's very important. So breath work is number one. First thing. And that's the inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. A lot of people do this 3 to 4 or 5 times until they feel relaxed and comfortable before they start doing readings. I do this before I start doing readings because for some reason it helps me connect. And I'm sure there's more to that than I even realize myself. So anytime you're doing any kind of yoga, mediumship, healing, trying to calm yourself down, you breathe. You focus on your breath. Okay? So that's the number one thing they wanted me to talk about first. They wanted everybody to learn. You can lower your blood pressure. You can lower your heart rhythm. You can get rid of migraine headaches with breath a lot of times. Now, grant you, there are going to be some health stipulations that you probably can't do all that depending, but I know that I sometimes have rapid heartbeat. I sometimes feel like I can't breathe. I will sit and you can lower your blood pressure even by doing breath. So they're trying to explain to us that when we are stressed, when we need to focus, when we need to relax, when we are going to meditate or do spiritual readings or healing or anything, breath is key. Always. From the very beginning of our life. That's one of the first things, God-given instincts we learn. Breath. So it also teaches us to ground. When we breathe like that, we are kind of getting back to our natural instincts. So that's one of the very major things they were talking about that a lot of people lose sight of, of course, through life or whatever, is breath is important. Not only did they talk about that, they also talked about like your God-given instincts when you're, first born and you're out, a month or so old. Not even that. It's like when I held my granddaughter for the first time, the day she was born, she had just come out. I got to hold her, I started talking to her saying, hey, little sweetie, whatever grandmas do. And she, like, her head turned to me and her eyes were open. Even though she wasn't able to see what I looked like or my face, she knew my voice. She knew my voice. And it's not like I had my voice on my daughter's belly singing songs at the time or anything, it's like there was a connection already. She already realized I was a safe person for her. And she just had her eyes wide open and was like very curious and was calm listening to my voice. So that's another God-given instinct. We realize even at the birth, after we come out, who certain people are. We know our mom's voice. We know our dad's voice. We might know our little sister or brother's voice. We might know grandparents' voices or my aunts and uncles' voices. We know these already. They're God-given instincts to us. Okay? So the next thing they wanted to talk about was when we're like 2, 3, 4 years old, being afraid of the dark or being afraid to go into a room by ourselves. Okay? Our parents do not drill that shit in our heads, people. They don't say, don't go in that room. It's scary in there. Our parents don't do that. They don't teach us about scary things at such a young age. What happens is we are so pure as children. We've not experienced a chaos in the world. We actually are so pure and open-hearted and loving as children that we tend to see things that our parents do not see. So there's times that, some people have imaginary friends as children, but I'm going to explain this. So when a child is 2, 3, 4 years old and all of a sudden they are like, Mom, turn the bathroom light on for me, I'm scared. You know why they say that? Because they see things that their parents cannot see. Energy, spirits, things like that. Of course, you're at the age where you don't understand what that is I'm seeing. And mom's in the house, dad's in the house, brothers and sisters are in the house. But who is this thing? What is this thing in the corner of my bedroom? I don't know what it is. Why this person don't live here? You know what I'm saying? So they see things. And that's when they said, there's a monster in my room. They might not technically mean a monster, but to them, that's the only thing they can relate from cartoons or whatever is what's in their room. There's a person in my room. There's a monster in my room. They don't know it's a spirit yet because they've not been taught ghosts and spirits and all that crazy stuff. But monsters, they have Monsters Inc. They understand this is something in my room. There's a person in my room that don't live here. And parents can't see that. So kids they say they're afraid of the dark, not because the parents have made them afraid of the dark, but because they don't understand the things they're seeing in those rooms. And it does scare them. So they want, Mommy and Daddy, will you turn on the light for me? I'm scared. And then that's when our parents start saying there's nothing to be afraid of. There's no such thing as ghosts. There's no such thing as monsters. So your parents are drilling that in your head. They're drilling you from a very early age because of things you see that your parents can't see. They're drilling that in your head. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no reason to be afraid of the dark. I'll shut your closet door. Here's a nightlight, blah, 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 blah. Then on the other hand, you have children who are playing in a bedroom and are talking to someone, and and your mom's like, oh, she's got an imaginary friend. Well, that's not always the case. Not always is it an imaginary friend. Sometimes spirits who pick up on a child's energy because their vibration is high, they're pure, they haven't been exposed to all the bullshit in this world. So they're very loving, nurturing, compassionate, and they don't judge people because they don't know how to yet. Okay? So they have an imaginary friend, but not always is that an imaginary friend. That's what people like to call it. Sometimes it is actually an energy or a spirit. And sometimes that energy or spirit realizes this is a child that I'm trying to communicate with, so I've got to present myself a little different so they aren't freaked out. Sometimes they might show up as a child themselves, or a bear, or a dragon, or whatever. And sometimes they show themselves as they were here on earth. So they might show themselves as a grandpa, okay, and nurturing. And maybe your daughter's like, old Grandpa Joe here, and your mom's kind of like, who the hell's Grandpa Joe? Oh, her imaginary friend. See what I'm saying? So it's not all kids. See, some do just have a creative imagination, but sometimes it is a spirit or energy they are picking up on, and the parents just look at it as an imaginary friend because a lot of kids do this, right? I had two imaginary friends, and I remember this plain as day because they were in my closet. When I would open my closet door, I would see a little girl that didn't look like me, but she was about my age. But then I'd also see this thing I called Boo Boo Bear because it looked like a bear to me. My mom, I never told my mom about it because I just thought it was normal. Okay, so, and it feels normal when you're a child. You don't know any different. You've not been taught any different. You don't understand. So parents blow it off as an imaginary friend. In reality, maybe they should dig a little deeper to find out, okay, what does this person look like, or this child, or this animal look like? Can you describe it to me? Things like that. But we don't. As parents, and I'm guilty too, probably saying, oh, just their imaginary friend, or oh, it's just a shadow in your room. You know what I mean? But it's not always that, okay? So that's something else that my guides wanted me to talk about, was that if you have a child that is talking like this, do not put the fear of God in them and say, oh, there's no such thing as ghosts. And just ask them questions about, well, what do you see? Kind of dig a little bit. Well, what are you seeing that seems scary to you? Explain it to mom or dad or whatever. Just because you might have a child that's very gifted and you don't want them to push that away, because there's reasons why people have abilities and have these God-given instincts, because they're here to help kind of light the world with humanitarianism, giving, love, compassion, non-judgment. They're here because they're here to make a difference and to help people get back to their God-given instincts, or to help them realize that there's so much more in this world than what we see physically. And it all comes from the divine. It's all from the divine. I always like to say we are all spirits here having a human experience, because that's what it feels like. As you become like a teenager, you're an adolescent and things are crazy, your hormones are going, you got boys on the mind or girls on the mind or what have you. You got school, you got sports, you got this, you got that, your hormones are out of whack. And you sometimes notice that teenagers will have panic attacks and anxiety attacks and stress the heck out, right? Maybe it's not always hormones. Maybe it's not always stress. These anxiety attacks often can be a sign that somebody can pick up on energy or spirits. Anxiety and panic attacks sometimes are one of the first things that start happening to someone who is awake or someone who has that ability. So that's what else my guides wanted me to talk about, was the fact that don't always just think that because your kids having anxiety attacks all the time is something wrong with them, because sometimes there's nothing wrong with them. It's because they're picking up energy. They're like empaths. So if you're the parent and you've been stressed out about bills all damn day, your child comes home and all of a sudden they're having anxiety attacks, they may be picking up on your energy. They may be picking up that stress and they don't understand why they're having anxiety attacks or panic attacks. It might be because what's going on in the home or what's going on around them in school. Too much energy at school, too many different personalities, too many different things. That's what might really be happening. And again, nobody, they look at it like a medical condition, and that's okay. I mean, because some people do have anxiety and panic, and it's a lack of chemicals in the brain, or it's whatever, or just a stressful time but there's other things that can cause anxiety and panic, and that is energy, and that is spirits too, because I went through 2 solid years of massive panic attacks when I was in college. They just came out of nowhere. I had no idea. I would just be sitting at home and all of a sudden, wham, one would come. I never put 2 and 2 together, guys. Because I have never been somebody who's been anxious or panicky in my life, ever. Matter of fact, I was pretty damn calm growing up. So when I started having panic attacks in college, I thought, what the hell is going on? And the crazy thing was, I wasn't overwhelmed with school. I got good grades. I wasn't even worried about school, really. I mean, I just knew I went there every day, but I started having massive panic attacks for 2 solid years. And they would come sometimes 4 times a week. It got so crazy that I had this impending doom, and I could never figure out why I was having an impending doom. My panic attacks was a sign that I felt like I was dying. And nobody could talk me out of that, hardly ever. Like in my head, I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm having a heart attack. And I didn't understand it until later in life. I realized, oh my God, that makes sense. Oh my God, I listened to this medium, that medium, this medium, and they all did the same dang thing as I was feeling during them 2 years. Same thing. So now I realize that my panic attacks weren't probably from stress or anything. It was because of this ability, my God-given ability. Just like everyone has some God-given ability and natural instincts that God gave you. Okay? So then the next thing they talk about is, okay, you're getting 18 years old and, you're going to college and you're doing the school thing and studying hard and you're in your 20s and you might have a serious relationship, and next thing you know, you're getting married and you're having freaking kids, and life gets you by the balls right then. You got daycare, going to work, paying bills, buying a house, getting married. I mean, all these things. So it pushes you farther away from what spiritually should be taking place in a sense. And life just gets a hold of you, and your spiritual and soul stuff is pushed to the side. What I failed to mention about also growing up as a young child is that, if your parents are religious and they go to a certain denomination or what have you, and you're going to church on Sunday and you're listening to the sermons and it's a Sunday ritual for you, something else you need to know is, I'm not saying any church is right or wrong. Believe me, I am not, because I really feel like each church has some truth to it, but I also know each church has some negative stuff to that, and a lot of it has been man-made up. And I'm not putting the Bible down, and I'm not putting any religion down. I'm just saying I know there's a lot of truth to some of that, but there's also a lot of non-truth that had developed over the centuries that has been added or taken away. I do know that from research. Okay? So not only that is, as a young child, you're being told, to say your prayers, that's a sin, or you're going to go to hell. I mean, that shit's being drilled in your mind, and that is so wrong. That is so freaking wrong. I don't like it when I hear things like that, like because you got a divorce, it's a sin. I don't like that. That's not right. That's not fair to anyone. That is not fair to anyone, and that's something I don't believe in. That's partially why I had so much trouble as a teenager growing up and being in a church setting, was because when I'm listening to the things they are telling us, that's wrong, 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 wrong. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought God was like a forgiving entity, right? So why am I being drilled that what I do is wrong, 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 when God is about forgiveness? So that's where I have trouble with religions. And it's nothing against them, believe me. This is just my belief. You believe how you want to believe. But some of that has been man-made up to keep us under a certain type of control, to believe a certain way. And when I started expanding my horizons and learning about different religions and stuff, I thought, oh, that's a pretty cool idea that this church has, and that's a pretty cool thing that they do for our community, giving back, food drives, blah, blah, blah. But then I would hear things like, you're going to hell because you lied to your mom. You're going to hell because you and your neighbor can't get along. I mean, things like that, okay? You're going to hell because you cheated on your significant other. Grant you, them are morally wrong things, but you're not going to hell for that shit, okay? You're not. It's not happening. God is forgiving. And as long as you know in your heart you did something wrong and you try to make it right somehow, that's what matters. You're not being condemned to hell for what a church or any religious entity tells you. That is not how this works, people. That's why I have my own belief system, and I'm not no denomination. I don't belong to any churches or anything like that, or any spiritual churches for that matter. I go based on what I've been told from my guides and my people, and I go based on what feels right. I just know. It's just like a knowing feeling that none of this is all true. So that's something else that's been drilled in your head. So you take all this stuff, from 2 years old on up, and it's like, okay, you've been taught there's no such thing as ghosts, there's no such thing as monsters, there's no reason to be afraid of the dark. Okay, now then you add this as you're old enough to understand what's being preached to you. Okay, you're going to hell for this, you're going to hell for that, you can't lie to your mom, you're going to hell for that, you're a sinner, you need to be baptized. You don't have to be baptized to get to heaven, people. I'm sorry. I know that goes against some people's religions, but that, to me, baptism in a church is more that you're making a connection with the church that you're attending. Baptism is not a yes or no thing. Yes, you're baptized, so you're going to heaven. No, you're not baptized, you're going to hell or purgatory or whatever you believe in. It's not that. To me, a baptism is just a sign that you're letting your church, your fellow churchgoers that attend the same church you do, know that you are fully in it to win it with God, okay? Or Jesus, or however you believe. So to me, it's more of a community thing, and a more of a, here's my heart, guys. I am in it with all of you. We're a community. That's what I look at baptism as, okay? So the next thing, I went up to the 18s and you're having panic attacks and blah, 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 or whatever. Okay, now you're in your 20s and life's got you by the balls and you are having your own family, getting married, maybe you're working, pay off them student loans, things like that. So life just gets a hold of you. So your spirituality is pushed way far back now. For most of us, okay, for most people. It's pushed way the hell on the back because you got more important things to worry about. You can't think about who's talking to you up there or what you need to do as a human to help other people. You're not thinking about that shit. You're worried about yourself, and you got to take care of these kids, and you got bills to pay and house mortgage and car payments, and dear God, I got to work this Saturday. It's getting pushed farther back, guys. Our God-given instincts, our God-given abilities are being pushed farther back because life gets a hold of us and gets in the way of a lot of things. And then finally, like as you're growing and, you got your kids in sports and they're all getting out, you're taking them to gymnastics, you're taking them to their sports, you're dropping them off at school, picking them up at school, taking them to daycare, blah, 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 blah. You just don't have time to focus on yourself and your breath. And so a lot of people don't even realize they have this God-given ability or this God-given gift because their life is so chaotic and it's all about survival in a sense. But when you add the spiritual instincts and the spiritual and how you feel in your heart with the survival mode, it makes it so much better because you know that when shit gets deep, you're going to get through it because you have something to look forward to or someone to believe in, such as God, the divine, Yahweh, Yeshua, whatever you want to call him, Allah. I don't care if you call him Pinocchio. But I'm just saying you have something higher to believe in that helps you get through them stressful moments. But most of us don't open up spiritually until later because we've got so much going on and so much chaos in our lives just trying to survive that we forget about those questions we so often wonder in our head, right? Like, so how was the earth created? Where do we come from? Is there a heaven? Is there a hell? Is there spirits? Are there such thing as angels? All them crazy questions we probably always wondered off and on throughout life. We finally are starting to go to that age where after our children are grown, we start wondering what else is out there. Because now I have an empty nest and I am like, what in the hell am I supposed to do with myself now besides working home? Pick up a hobby. So in my life, once my kids were gone, everything just come rushing right back to me, because I have experienced things throughout my life. When I was a child, when I was 8 or 9, when I was 15, when I was 18, when I was 21 or 20, different parts of my life. When I was 25, when I was 28, I can sit here and name almost every instant when shit happened in my life that I knew something more was with me. I just didn't know what. Then it kind of went away during my 30s a little bit. I mean, there were still things that I would kind of get intuition and empathic things from. And I had my religion drilled in my head. There's no such thing as ghosts drilled in my head. So when I started opening up to what my God-given ability was, I started getting afraid. Here comes there's no such thing as ghosts. And then the religious aspect that I'd been taught my childhood until my teenage years about spirits are the devil talking to you. They're demons talking to you. Bullshit. I'm sorry to say. Bullshit. I don't care who wants to challenge me on that. Bullshit. Because any demon is not going to be nice, if there even is demons. So no demon is going to sit here and tell me about your loved one, all the fun memories and everything you have. What would be the point? What would be the point? Aren't they bad? Aren't they supposed to do bad things, right? Yeah, I would think, from what we've been taught. So that has nothing to do with what I do. Everything I do comes from my heart, comes from love, comes from the people that I care the most about that are no longer here with us. My family, my ancestors, my guides who've been there with me since birth. So when people say what you do is bad, okay, well, who told you it was bad? Your church? Because I heard that shit too when I was growing up. But the funny thing is, all throughout the Bible, it's all spiritual stuff and spiritual knowledge, if you can read between the lines. And what I do know is most of us do start having those questions later in life, and we seek knowledge for that. We look up things, trying to figure out, okay, so what's this theory? What's that theory? And where after my kids left, I started becoming more open because I thought this is coming back full force. I need to figure this out. But my belief system from the church scared me. I got so scared in the beginning because I couldn't understand who these people were talking to me, who these people were in my living room while I'm trying to sleep in my chair watching TV. Who are these people at night that are waking me up saying, hey, my name is Kathy. Can you please tell Edward I love and miss him? I'm like, okay, who the fuck is, excuse my F word, who the frick is Edward? And why am I hearing this? Am I schizophrenic right now? Or are these demons like the church taught me? No, none of them ever came to me in a mean, volatile way. They all came to me, making me feel love like I'd never felt love before. Like I almost felt like my chest was glowing, just like an automatic love. And once I was trained by a well-known medium all over the world, and she grew up like I did. So it helped me out tremendously to understand that I had to go back to the beginning and forget everything I had been taught religiously. Because if you don't, all those little things you've been taught growing up that seem so horrid and so scary, like demons and devils and you're going to hell and sins, is in your back of your mind. And it messes with you when you try to actually do what you were put here on the earth to do. And that's to help restore faith, hope, healing, all those compassion, understanding, all those good juju things that we all need in our life every day, even including me. I need it too. I'm not perfect. So when I channeled today, this is the kind of things they were talking to me about. And they told me it was very important to make people, not to make people, just to give them an idea and to understand. Don't ever be afraid to step outside that box of what you've been taught your whole entire lifetime. Because you might be amazed at some of the messages you receive or some of the ding, ding, ding light bulbs that turn on in your head. And that they just want more people to understand that we all carry like the God gene. That's how we're connected. And that we all have those God-given instincts, and that breath is very important because it helps to center you. It helps to balance you. It helps to ground you. It helps to relax you. And it helps like just to calm your body down and to slow your system down, whether blood pressure, heartbeats, migraines, different things like that. So, and to help you connect with whatever God-given instincts you have. So I did all this channeling. They're telling me I've got pages of this crap. I'm telling you, not crap. It's good stuff, but you know what I'm saying. It's like I don't even remember writing it. I haven't even read this third page because I was so overwhelmed reading the first and second pages that I wrote. I'm like, dear God, they just kept going. They just kept going. And they're talking about all kinds of stuff, which I'll talk about in a different video. But it's wild. If you've ever done channel writing, you know what I'm talking about. It's like you're using words you don't use in your regular life. Like, where are these words coming from? Because I don't talk that way. I'm more like a hillbilly. And I say bad words all the time. But you don't find bad words in my writing ever. Ever, which is bizarre. And you don't. And when I read my channel writing, it's in words I do not use. Like I can't even say the word. Differentiating. I don't use that word. It's in my writing. I mean, there's just crazy words in here that I do not use. And I'm like, you know, this comes from somewhere, and it can't be coming from me because I don't talk that way. But I just want you guys to always remember breath. Go back to breath. If you're having a stressful day, take a few, inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Do it like 3 or 4 or 5 times until you can slowly feel, and relax your shoulders when you're doing it. Slowly feel your body come back down to normal. It helps. It helps a lot. It helps me. I've sat in my car and done it before I walked into the bar because I'm like, oh God, I can't do this today. But I just want you guys to realize there's so much more out there besides what we've been taught in life. But you have to explore it because that's your journey. This is my journey, and you guys are just tagging along with me, learning what I know and what I believe. But it's awesome to go try to experience that for yourself. And I have one young lady that I want to say kudos to her and her mom and her sister, because they are doing it. They are doing it. They are experiencing things they had never really experienced before in life, but they're grabbing a hold of that and they're running with it. And they've experienced way more this past week than they ever have, to where they felt what I have been saying. Tears come to your eyes, you get chills all over your body, and you feel it. You just know it to be so. And I give kudos to these 3 young ladies, because mom and her 2 daughters, because I know how much it means to them. And their eyes are open, and they're very good at energy. And they are seeing things and feeling things that they have not felt. And it is a blessing, because they needed this. And they are going to continue down this journey. I know they will, because they have high energy. All of them have high vibration, high energy. And I've felt this since day one, since I've talked to them in the past. And I can feel their energy when I'm around them. So I know they could easily do what I do. Easily. So we'll see. And I am so blessed that they are taking that journey and have become so open-minded to what is real and what they're learning. Not only are they learning about the other side and things like that, but they're learning about themselves and what's right here. And that is important. So I know I talked like I had diarrhea of the mouth today. I'm sorry, but I just got so excited when I seen the channeling thing, and I know it's kind of hit and miss. I'm just reading it as they gave it to me. And there is more to it, but I'm not going to talk about that right now, because if not, this video would be an hour and a half long, and I don't want to do that to y'all, because the longer the videos, the less people watch. So with that, happy Monday. Believe, 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 and always believe in yourself. And hopefully I'll get to a second part of this video, because I have a very crazy week this week. All right. Love y'all. Thanks for staying on my crazy train. Breathe.